Time to load a little more on our plate. This is our new project. It's a probably it's at least 75-year-old barn, I would assume, now that we're getting up into 2020 here. I would assume. I will find out, but it's just a little place down the street from me, about a minute or two down the road, which is very handy. He's got a cool little bohemian sort of farmhouse here. This is going to be one of the earlier residences on the street in this spot here, so it's really cool. And he does a little lawnmower repair on the side and mows lawns. So he wants to do a little hobby farming in this barn, and I think that's a great idea. It's had gutters on it for a long time, but he has had a lot of foundation heaving and degradation, and he's got a little lean-to on the back here. That's just T111 on there, so that came later. But this is a balloon style, which means, and I'll break this down in more comprehensively in another video, but rather than making a sole plate on the foundation wall or what have you, having a floor box, otherwise going up with studs sitting on that, and then putting a couple top plates on there and building the second floor floor box on top of the wall, first story wall. What they did was take the stud all the way up to the eave or to the highest wall position in the building and make that box first, and then this is hard to expose here because of that window. Maybe I'll look over here, turn the lights on. But then they would hang the floor joists for the subsequent floors. It's so hard to see. I should have found the light. Here we go. They hang the floor joists. Let's try and get that to brighten up there. Come on, guy. Anyway, the stud goes right on by and upstairs, and then the floor joist comes in and it's just strapped to the side. There is like a ledger that they would build in. Let's see if I got any light over here now. Oh yeah, right at the light bulb. So if we look here, notice the stud goes right on by. It's been notched for this ledger. And then the second floor joist sits, it's just slapped to the side and it's borne on that ledger. Rather, nowadays you'd go up to this point if this is, or excuse me, this point, if this is where you wanted, come on, focus, you fuck. If this is the point at which you wanted to set your joists, and the stud would be cut, and a pair of plates would be stacked on top, and then the floor box system would sit on top of that. And the reason for that is you don't have to do any fine notching to fit something like this, but more importantly, in residential building and stuff now, you can't do this, because if a fire were burning down here, and this is why you hear about balloon style being not meeting fire code, it could burn into the wall, and then it can go right raging up the wall past the subfloor right on the second floor, because there is no subfloor in the wall cavity, and just start right out again and go right up to the eaves. It really works in fire's favor, because it can grow all around the entire structure and the outside wall very, very quickly. So it's not allowed anymore. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do, Chezzy? What are we going to do? Notice the floor is all busted up. We got a real problem here on this backside that's just covered with some wood. But let's go around here and look. We're basically going to skip the foundation that it has. That's blocked. We're going to pick it up just a touch. And it's going to be hanging in space. The wall will just be hanging there. And it'll be a pole barn. So at increments down both sides, we're going to excavate. Here's our little lean-to. And we're going to install footings, precast concrete footings in the ground. And then I'll show you inside. We'll stand a post on that, and we'll fit the post inside up to a beam that we'll install underneath those floor joists. But you notice this is catastrophic failure here. That's a no-no. So I expect this is going to be the lowest position because it's physically gone. How do we get that? Here we go. This is physically gone down here as the wall has deteriorated. There's going to be a high point in here somewhere and a low point. I bet you the low point's in that corner. So the first thing we need to do, now I asked my client to clean out his personal belongings and stuff, which he did for the most part. And then we will come and do a demo day or two here to start. And we're going to take this wall out of here. I'll take this door, these stable walls out, everything that's secondary in here. These joists just are one piece from one side of the barn to the other, so there's no structural integrity here in the middle. We can lose all of this stuff. What that affords us is being able to set up a laser transit in here and go around and touch the bottom of the floor joists all the way around and relate that to the laser. That's a perfect level plane, and I expect we'll find the smallest dimension over here in the corner, which would indicate that this has gone down. We'll find the largest dimension elsewhere, which would indicate that's the highest position. And basically what we'll do is we'll bring everything up to that position. The highest position won't really move, but we have to establish where those things are. And as far as building in here, we're going to rip all this press board off the wall, but we'll end up with something that looks like this wall back here. And so we'll come under here with, I'm not quite sure how much of this will happen in modular stages and how much of it will happen simultaneously, but we'll have, where we're working, we'll have a support wall underneath the floor joist system, and then we will notch out much larger across where the ledger goes. Now the ledger doesn't touch the sheathing on the outside. Notice there's a space behind it, but we're actually going to take these right off at a point that will allow us to install LVL beam, probably 2 layers of at least 12-inch tall, 1, 2, and that will be basically out here at the plane of the stud, but that will be standing under here. That'll be the carrying beam that goes under the ends of all the floor joists and bears the weight of the building, and that it points at the corner, both ends basically of one wall, and probably twice in the center given the length of this building. We will install a post from underneath that beam with a piece of steel bracketry. It'll go right down, and we'll basically smash a hole out of the foundation wall just enough to let us come through, go right through the plate, and we'll go right down 4 feet into the ground onto a precast concrete block. So that means we'll make a hole where we're going to work in the foundation, then we'll dig down with our new piece of equipment that I'll show you. We got a little backhoe for the skid steer. We'll dig down, we'll throw a precast concrete footing in there, we'll tamp it all down, and we'll lift this, prior to that or afterward or whatever, we'll get the building up to where it's going to live permanently in terms of elevation, and then it'll have the beam in this area installed, and we'll take a measurement from the bottom surface of the beam to the top surface of the concrete, and we will make a 6x6 that size, and we'll send it in shunk until it stops tight against the back, against the inside surface of the sheathing. We'll attach all the fasteners at the bracketry top of it, and then we'll backfill the hole and we'll tamp that all down. We'll move to the next location, and we'll just do that all the way around the building. And when we're done, it'll be standing plumb level and square, and the foundation that's here will be cosmetic, I suppose. Of course, the road facing side looks pretty all right, so it may stay. It's certainly a lot of work to get rid of. But the crumbling parts, in this piece here, it may be nice to go right out into this lean-to, at least with a doorway or something. He may appreciate that. So that would mean that we could clear this out of here. Anyway, there'll be space there underneath, and it could be just a faux wall could be built. Variety of different options, or you could carry the siding down farther, or buy a new siding product that's kind of looks like stone or something like that and apply that down there. But he will be he'll have a very usable building, and then we can come in here and talk about smashing up and taking these pieces of concrete out of here and getting some bank run in here, and then he may even want to move into concrete, or he may just leave it that way. But he wants to do hobby farming in here, so I'm sure his imagination will start spinning when the building comes to life here more than it's ever has been. It should be very exciting. And we have a second floor here too. It's a very odd, like ship ladder, very steep, not conducive to a man in his 60s. But he's got most of this stuff out here. I'll tip the doors down so I don't hear them crash up here, which can be frightening when you're picking things up. But really, while this place is heavy, I guess technically, it's very light, relatively speaking. These are, 2x6, not even 2x5 true sawn on what looks like 2-foot centers. It does have nice 2x12 floor joists, which makes for, I think that's more to do with doing the whole span in one piece for that rigidity, because the rest of the building certainly isn't built that heavily. But here's how you can see that block is thrown in there, because this is why this is another indication of the problems with the balloon structure. When you come to put in your subfloor, which was always like a matched lumber, tongue and groove or something like that, your first course, you have to start, the first one you can have is at the face of the studs. That wall cavity is open. So see somebody here, you can see the light coming through. Somebody here is throwing a block in there to shut it. I was going to come up here and look down those. But that's the problem with balloon construction, because if you don't do this, and you look in a wall, like in my building, that's actually stuck there, but the opening goes right down, all the way down to the foundation in the basement. If you have 2 or 3 stories, you can usually talk to one another up and down through a balloon structure. So anyway, somebody threw blocking in there probably to keep the hay and stuff from falling down in there, but yeah, looks pretty cool. Anyway, a building this size would cost you to put a pole. That's the problem with that ladder. To put a pole barn up this size nowadays, just a shell on a flat gravel pad, gravel surface area, and an empty spot that you start with there, it's going to cost you, geez, $20,000 at least, more like 30 most likely if you went with Morton or somebody like that, a good name brand. So anyway, he won't spend half of that here and having me do this, but it'll be the vintage barn that goes with the vintage home. And despite it has a newer style building happening, being a pole barn in here, it will look just about the same and be way more functional. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.